Hey folks, Thomas Tao. I'm here at VinePair HQ in beautiful New York City. Today, we're looking at Remus Repeal Reserve Release 7. This comes from Ross Squibb Distillery, probably still better known in some circles as MGP. It is an Indiana Straight Bourbon Whiskey bottled at 100 proof. It's a blend of between 9 and 16-year-old bourbon. Let's dive in. But before we do that, make sure you subscribe to VinePair on YouTube, the very video content platform you're watching this on. Come on, subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Few details, it is 100 proof. It is not bottled in bond because this is a blend of a few different years of whiskey out of Ross and Squibb, but all the Remus Repeal Reserve series has been bottled at 100 proof, so they're staying consistent. Again, that blend varies. You have 6% of a 16-year-old bourbon, and then you have 20+% of some younger bourbons in this. This is $100 MSRP, and it's something I expect most people, if they're looking for it, will actually be able to find around that price. Ross Squibb produces things at volume. This is pretty widely available. And though it's generally a well-regarded release, it's not as chase and doesn't drive up into secondary prices like a lot of other limited annual releases. So I don't expect to see this for more than about $100 on the shelf. All right, let's dive in. But if you want my full review, I'd highly recommend clicking on the link in the description below. I go into full detail on tasting notes, aroma notes, the finish, my rating. If you want the real scoop, click on the link below. This video just isn't quite as detailed, but you know what? Let's try it out. So this is a blend of two different mash bills, a 21% rye and a 36% rye. And if I remember correctly, that rye spice definitely comes through. FYI, this isn't actually the cork the bottle came with. The cork we had actually broke in transit, didn't spill any of the liquid, but just so you know, the cork on a bottle sitting on the shelf will be a little different. Yeah, on the nose, I immediately get marmalade, like an orange marmalade on this. Maraschino cherry. It's pretty standard for a lot of Ross Squibb Distillery, or MGP, if you still know it as that. There is a little nuttiness. I wrote about this in my full review. I'm getting some walnuts, some pecan, some cashew actually. And I actually, even though the 16-year-old bourbon is only 6% of this blend, you do pick up on some of those components of well-aged Ross Squibb distillate. I'm used to that. I've had a lot of it over the years. And even though it's just a small portion of this blend, it definitely comes through on the nose. So the nose isn't the most complex thing in the world. It is pretty standard Ross Squibb, but what it does really well. Let's see how it tastes. Same thing I got the first time I tried Remus Repeal Reserve 7. Super creamy. It's like butterscotch and vanilla. If you go to Dairy Queen and you get one of those soft serve dip cones in the butterscotch, tastes a little bit like that, a really creamy mouthfeel, especially only at 100 proof points. It's not so much maraschino cherry on the palate, it's more black cherry, like a black cherry cola. I like it. I'm not getting the influence of that 16-year-old bourbon as much as I was getting on the nose. It lacks just that little bit of depth that I was kind of hoping for and that we've seen on some of these blends. By the way, my favorite ever release in this series was number 5. I thought it was an absolute knockout of a release, and immediately 7's not quite hitting that high mark, but it is good so far. I kind of wish I got more influence from that older bourbon, that 16-year-old bourbon on the tongue. It might also come through more at a higher proof, but these are standard 100 proof releases, so we're not going to get that in a Remus Repeal Reserve. Finish is solid, spice forward. Again, more of that black cherry, just a little bit of nuttiness. Pretty good overall. Not quite as good as batch 5 or release number 5, but certainly not the worst of these that I've had. If you're interested in my full thoughts, and I mean full thoughts, on this bourbon, would definitely recommend clicking the link in the description below. It takes you to my full review. Overall, what did I think of this whiskey? I liked it. I really like this series. There's a lot of variety in them. Some of them are very good, some of them are only pretty good. This one for me is a little bit in the middle. Very drinkable. It's something that if I saw it on the shelf for $100, I'd definitely consider it. If you like that Ross Squibb profile, I mean that classic Ross Squibb / MGP component, those flavors, this is definitely gonna hit the mark for you. I scored this a 92 out of 100. If I look back at how I feel about some of these previous releases, I would go up to 95 and maybe a little bit beyond on some of the better releases in this series. This wasn't quite top tier, but at 92 out of 100, still very enjoyable, something I'm excited to share with friends, and I'm not sure this bottle's gonna last long. It's a really easy sipper at 100 proof points and definitely enjoyable. So that's what I think about Remus Repeal Reserve 7, the 2023 release of this series. That is a mouthful to say, but I wanna know how you feel about it. If you've tried this bourbon, let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you would rate it, how it compares to my rating of 92 out of 100. And I'm also curious if people have any standouts from this series. Did you like 5 as much as me? Are there any other Ross and Squibb releases, because they're really leaning into their in-house brands, that you especially like and always look out for? Let me know in the comments below. I look forward to hearing from you.